Hi folks, I'm Kerry Farr. Welcome to today's edition of In Your Corner. You know, I spent over 25 years of my life as a boxing trainer, manager, and promoter. And somehow I miss that elusive dream. I never hit boxing's big time, and so few people do. But a friend of mine, Don Hale, started managing a fighter by the name of Frankie, the Surgeon Randall, out of Morristown, Tennessee, and they did an amazing thing. They fought a legend by the name of Julio Cesar Chavez, and they were supposed to lose, but Frankie went to Las Vegas and beat him. Folks, Don Hale is with us today. Don, so good to see you. Thank you for joining me today.
Look forward to it, Kerry. Thank you.
Hey, how was that ride? I mean, you take Frankie Randall, who I knew from the time he was a young man. I actually saw Frankie fight when he was 16 years old. He had just won the Junior Olympics, and he was fighting the Southern Golden Gloves in Knoxville, Tennessee. And he was 16 years of age, and he lost to a guy by the name of Bernard Taylor, who was a great boxer himself. And I remember at 16 years of age, he was crying because he had lost to Bernard Taylor. Well, fast forward 10 or 12 years, and you and Frankie hook up and go to Las Vegas and beat one of the greatest Mexican fighters to ever live. How did you pull that off?
Well, Kerry, it was interesting that my brother was the one that actually bought Frankie's contract initially and knew nothing about boxing, as I didn't either. It was the only sport that my dad ever really liked. And my brother, being a doctor, didn't have a lot of time to spend, and it was something that I loved doing. So I got to know the right people. We signed Frankie with Don King to promote him, and Don told us that if Frankie could win a big fight, that he could fight Chavez. So we fought Edwin Rosario.
Very good fighter from Puerto Rico.
Edwin had beat Frankie earlier in his career, one of Frankie's 2 losses. And Frankie went to Memphis, got knocked down in the 2nd round, got hurt bad, got up, and in the 7th round stopped Rosario. And because of that fight is when we got the fight with Chavez. And so we went off as a 17-1 underdog. But I had seen Chavez fight, and I told everyone it's a 50-50 fight whenever we fight him. And sure enough, it was a close fight, a split decision because we did have one Mexican judge, but Frankie beat Chavez at a 17-1 underdog, and that was a great night, January 29th, 1994.
I remember it well. I saw the fight, but you know, I was rooting for Frankie because in 1985, I managed a fighter by the name of Darryl Fast Fist Fuller, and we were fighting for the Continental of America's championship, and so we traveled up to Morristown, Tennessee, where, as you know, Frankie was from, and we spent 2 or 3 days up there with Darryl sparring with him, and I think he was 24-0 at that time, was fighting at lightweight, and my guy was a junior welterweight, and my guy was a very rugged guy. He was good enough to win the Continental of America's championship, and him and Frankie went to war. And I think one day Darryl got the best of him, and the next day Frankie got the best of Darryl. But the thing that I noted right then and there, I said in my mind, how in the world is anybody going to stop Frankie Randall at lightweight? He was incredible. And then you guys brought him along, and he won the Junior Welterweight Championship of the World against a legend. Where did you go from there after the Chavez fight?
Well, you know, we had to rematch with Chavez. And Frankie again beat Chavez probably more than he did the first fight. But we didn't get the decision. There was a headbutt in the 7th round, and by WBC rules at that time, it was the last fight they ever had to where if it was a headbutt, the guy that didn't get cut had a point taken away, and that point is what lost the fight. So Frankie lost the title back to Chavez, and then we fought Juan Koji. Ended up fighting Koji, beat him in Las Vegas, then fought him in Miami. Interesting story there. There was a headbutt in that fight. Koji goes down and goes back to his corner. In Spanish, they're telling him to go down. He goes down, won't get up. They carry him out of the ring, even though there was nothing wrong with him. But in the first round, Frankie had slipped, and they called it a knockdown. So there was 2-point round. And then Frankie lost the 2nd round. Frankie wins the 3rd and the 4th round, and we lose by 1 point on all 3 judges' scorecards. So then had to go to Argentina and beat Koji in Argentina then.
Wow. And so what happened to Frankie's career after you guys went to Argentina?
Frankie was the nicest guy you would ever meet in your life, but he had substance abuse problems. He had a hard time staying away from alcohol and drugs, and that finally caught up with him. Frankie would, and I didn't even know at the time how Frankie, the night before a fight, would literally go out and get drunk, and where he couldn't even walk into the hotel. And he had beat guys that way over and over, to where he literally would come in at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning drunk, and the next night go out and Rocky Rodney Moore. I'll never forget Fred Jenkins, who was the trainer for Rocky Rodney Moore. We were down in Monterrey, Mexico, after the fight, coming to me and said, "Okay, what have you got him on, Don?" I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "We saw him carrying him in at 5 o'clock this morning. He couldn't walk, and he destroyed Rodney Moore. Nobody could do that." Well, Frankie did. And Frankie, by the time he was 34 years old, 35 years old, he fought Kayid Ralalu, who couldn't tie his shoelaces. My wife and I, that was the first event at the Bridgestone here in Nashville that Don King put on a show. My wife and I took Frankie and his wife to Uncle Bud's Catfish Kitchen on the Friday night, and took him back to his room at 10 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, Frankie left, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, someone carried him back to the hotel. And Frankie was just killing Ralalu for 5 rounds, then got tired. They stopped the fight in the 11th round when Frankie couldn't defend himself, and he was still ahead on all 3 judges' scorecards.
Wow. Well, Don, we've got about a minute and a half left in this segment. You know, what's going on with Frankie today?
Frankie, because I think of the substance abuse and taking too many punches, like you say, the wars he had in the gym, he's actually in a mental hospital here in Nashville now. It's a sad, sad case, because like I say, Frankie was such a nice guy. If he was clean, if he was sober, you'll never find a nicer guy than Frankie Randall. And,
always very polite and gentle, and I mean, just such a great boxer.
It was sort of thing to where I'd come home and he'd be washing my car. "Frankie, you don't have to do that." "Yeah, I want to." I remember one time, "You don't have a cordless phone?" "No." I come home and I got a cordless phone. Frankie was that type of guy that always wanted to do something for people.
Yeah, and you know, we've got to go to a break right now, Don, but when we come back, we're going to talk about your relationship and your wife's relationship with one of the greatest fighters to ever live, and that, of course, would be Floyd Mayweather, and we're going to let people know that, you know, you and your wife took him in when he was a young teenager. So, folks, stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment, and Don Hale is going to talk about his relationship with this great fighter coming up in just a moment. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi friends, I'm Jimmy Snow, son of country music legend Hank Snow. I hope you're enjoying today's program as much as I am, hosted by Mr. Kerry Farr. By the way, why don't you go to the website, it's inyourcorner.tv, and become a prayer partner with this ministry, and at the same time, prayerfully consider financially supporting this ministry with your finances, and God bless you for your help.
Okay, friend, we're back with Don Hale, and before the break, we were talking about Don Hale winning the world championship with his boxer, Frankie Randall. And Don, you know, along the way, you used to live in Michigan, and there was a young teenager there who everybody knows is a great fighter today, who ended up living with you and your wife. Tell us a little bit about that young man and his story.
Well, it coincides with the Frankie Randall story, because when Frankie fought Chavez, I was living in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but I went out with Frankie the week before the fight, and I went out on a Sunday. On Monday, we go to the boxing gym for Frankie to train. And Roger Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather's uncle, who was a 2-time world champion, was in the gym. And when Roger finds out I'm from Grand Rapids, he comes over and says, "Look, I have a nephew that's running the streets in Grand Rapids. He's not in the boxing gym. He's a good boxer, and would you be interested in watching out after him?" Well, the story was that when Big Floyd, Floyd's dad, went to prison, he sent little Floyd out to be with Roger in Las Vegas. After about 2 weeks, Roger couldn't handle it, and he sent him back to Grand Rapids. He was living with his grandmother, running the streets, wasn't in the boxing gym. So I got with Floyd. He called me the following week. The next day, Floyd was actually staying at our house and ended up living with us, and I started taking him to the boxing gym. And it was I was not a trainer, didn't claim to be, still don't claim to be, but I got Floyd in shape, and he went to the National Golden Gloves in March. That was in January. In March, he wins the National Golden Gloves, got fighter of the tournament, and I started working with Floyd.
Even a tremendous talent in those days. And, you know, kind of as on a side note, along about that time, you know, I had a heavyweight boxer by the name of Keith McKnight. And I'd actually sent him to Grand Rapids to work with heavyweight contender Buster Mathis Jr.
Doing well.
And Keith's up there sparring with Buster in the same gym that Floyd's training in. And I don't know if you were there.
Yes.
But Keith's like 6'6", and Floyd, you know, what, 5'8" or 9". And they're in the gym playing touch. And so Keith is boxing with Floyd in those days. Of course, Keith was so much bigger, they weren't letting heavy leather going. They were just letting heavy leather go. They were just basically, you know, moving. But he said in those days that Floyd was the nicest, polite young man you'd ever want to meet.
Floyd is much nicer than what people think. His public persona, when Floyd was an amateur, he talked about how he wanted to be the bad guy. I said, you could be Sugar Ray Leonard. He said, I don't want to be Sugar Ray Leonard. He said, I want to be the bad guy. People will pay to see the bad guy. So when Floyd turned pro, he had that persona of, I'm a bad guy. It's all about the money. It's all about, you know, me, how great I am. And I thought he was wrong, but it turned out that he has done everything he said he could do, and made hundreds of millions of dollars by being able to be the bad guy. People will pay to see the bad guy.
You know, and Don, you were just at his house a few days ago, and he's flying you to Vegas tomorrow, or you're flying to Vegas, you and your wife, to see his fight. You just were telling me about some of his vehicles just a few minutes ago. Tell us a little bit about his lifestyle.
Well, it's over the top.
Yeah.
You know, Floyd lives in a 20,000 square foot house that's immaculate, gorgeous, beautiful house. In his garage, he had the $4.8 million car that there's only 2 in the world. I think there's only going to be 3. He had a $2.6 million Bugatti, 1.6, and a 1.2, all in his garage. Outside, then set his convertible Rolls Royce. He had another garage that had a McLaren, had a Lamborghini. He called me last night and showed me his Rolls Royce limo on FaceTime last night that wasn't out there when I was there last week. So he's big into cars, big into jewelry. I remember he came to see me in Nashville one time, and I hadn't seen him for a while. And he was staying at the Hermitage, and I go into his suite, and on his table he has all of his jewelry set out there, and millions of dollars in jewelry sitting out there. So all of those things are very important to Floyd, and I look at it today as a way that he has promoted himself by living large, living this way. You see billboards in Las Vegas that say money, the money team. So that's what Floyd has built a reputation on, and it has got him a lot of publicity.
Well, as a teenager, when he lived with you and your wife, how long did he stay with you, and what was he like in those days?
He lived with us a little over 2 years, and Floyd, I can remember he always liked the better clothes. My kids would not wear name brand. You know, it wasn't important to wear name brand clothes. They actually didn't want to. Floyd wanted the best of everything. Whenever the new Jordan shoes came out, we'd have to wait till midnight so he could get them. Floyd was rambunctious, and he knew how to brag about himself. He was proud of what he would accomplish. But the thing about Floyd is he was so focused on boxing at that point. He knew what he wanted to do, and he was going to do whatever it took to do it. I never worked with another fighter, and I've worked with a lot of fighters over the years like you have. I never worked with another fighter that was as easy to get to train as Floyd. And whenever he would go into the ring, he wanted to make sure that he was in the best shape that he could possibly be in. And his only exception to that was when I let him go. His dad wanted me to take him to Detroit. His dad would call me from prison, and he wanted a trainer in Detroit to train him. So I took him over the week before the Pan Am trials. And the only fight he ever had at 119, we come back on Sunday. I pick him up, bring him back on Sunday, and I put him on the scales, and he weighed 131.5 pounds. And Wednesday morning, he had to be at 119. And so he had to get down real fast, and he had to do it the wrong way, and he lost to Carlos Navarro, the only fight he ever had at 119 pounds.
Wow.
But he learned his lesson to where that never happened again.
Yeah. What I guess he was so focused on boxing that in those 2 years that he lived with you and your wife, you didn't have a lot of trouble with him?
No, you know, he was in, he was going to, I was trying to get him to graduate high school. He actually got 1 credit away from graduating high school before the Olympics came. And to my knowledge, he never did finish that. I don't guess he needs that too bad right now.
Yeah.
But he'd go to school. He would stay with us, and then there would be nights he would stay with his grandmother. But he never got into trouble. No, that was never a problem at all as far as Floyd getting into trouble.
Well, Don, you know, obviously you having been a boxing manager, had you been able to sign Floyd to a professional contract, you would have made millions of dollars. What happened to allow him to get away when he was living in your home?
Well, it was sort of thing, you know, I cared for Floyd like he was one of my own. And when the money came, some other people started coming at him, started giving him money, and we went for quite a few years that we did not even speak, other than because Nate Jones was another fighter that I managed that was a bronze medal winner with Floyd at '96 Olympics. And so he and Nate were friends, so I'd see Floyd, hey Don, that was the extent of it. And Floyd called me then, I would guess probably in about 2002, 2003, called me after one of his fights. I think it was with Jesus Chavez at like 2:30 in the morning. And said, you know, Don, I want to see you. I want to talk to you. I think about what you and Dixie did for me. And said, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate it, and I'd like to see you. And so my next trip to Las Vegas, we got together, and we've been close since then.
Kind of patched up the old relationship there.
Well, I think Floyd was young and did not understand somebody really caring for him the way that we did. You know, Floyd did not come from a family that was close. His dad was around to take him to the boxing gym, but his mother wasn't around. His grandmother cared for him, but she was, you know, it was a struggle for her. And so I don't think Floyd really felt that love that we showed him. And I think as the years went on, he matured to that and realized how important that he was to us, and then in return, how important we were to him.
Yeah. Well, Don, we've got to go to a break, but we'll be back in just a moment. Folks, hang around. We'll come back and talk more about the great Floyd Mayweather Jr. with Don Hale. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hi folks, I'm Jimmy DeYoung from Prophecy Today Ministries. We are so thrilled to have had the opportunity to be with Kerry Farr on his broadcast, In Your Corner. Man, I was afraid when I came on the broadcast whether he wanted to duke it out with me or not. Well, we duked it out verbally and we had a great time. All of these broadcasts are available for you to purchase, and this will help you understand Bible prophecy. Kerry is a great interviewer, and he asked me some questions, and I love what he did. After he asked the questions, he got out of the way and let me teach Bible prophecy from the Word of God. We talked about current events in light of the prophetic scenario found in God's Word. These will be great programs to help you and your family and your friends study Bible prophecy. There's a number that's going to be on the screen that you can call and make your order to get all of the programs that we did together. And by the way, keep listening to Kerry Farr. He is right at the cutting edge of what's happening. God bless you. Keep looking up. Jesus is coming, and it could be today.
Hi, friends. I'm Jimmy Snow, son of country music legend Hank Snow. I hope you're enjoying today's program as much as I am, hosted by Mr. Kerry Farr. By the way, why don't you go to the website? It's inyourcorner.tv. and become a prayer partner with this ministry. And at the same time, prayerfully consider financially supporting this ministry with your finances, and God bless you for your help.
Folks, we're back with Don Hale, who, you know, he and his wife took Floyd Mayweather in when he was a teenager. And Floyd Mayweather's become one of the greatest, you know, boxers of all time, and you're flying out to see him fight this weekend. Don, you know, the perception of Floyd is that a lot of people don't like him because he brags so much about himself. But you said that basically he's a nice guy, and that's all a front.
People don't know the things that Floyd does for people, and not just people that are extremely close to him. He has a lot of people that he helps take care of there, takes care of his family. He was running the other night, and he ran by and said, that's where my daughter's mother lives. He bought her a nice house there, bought his mother a house in Vegas. But then a lot of people that he, Thanksgiving, he always does special things around Thanksgiving for people. People don't hear about the things. He don't publicize the good things he does for people, and helps people in so many different ways.
You know, you mentioned earlier that he's got a collection of jewelry worth millions of dollars and a car collection worth untold millions of dollars. What's he going to do when the career is over and he's not getting, 20 or 50 or $100 million per fight?
It's interesting in talking with him. Al Heyman has been his manager now for quite a few years. And Al Heyman has really shown Floyd a lot of the way to manage and promote himself. And there's a lot of fighters that, my understanding, that Floyd is in on the promotional end of it. He had a fighter there with him the other day that was like 17-0 that actually ran with him. This was Sunday night when I was at his house. And he has a multitude of fighters that are going to dominate boxing, I think, for quite a few years. And I think he and Al Heyman have a deal for that. And Floyd will promote those fighters. So
you think he's going to be like De La Hoya after his career is over? He's going to become a promoter?
I think he'll be more successful than De La Hoya even, because the way they control right now, just about every fight that goes on, Al Heyman has one of the two corners and sometimes both of them. And my understanding is that Floyd has a part of that.
Yeah. Don, you're a Christian, and you've given your life to Jesus Christ. You think that Floyd is, open to the gospel of Jesus Christ?
I know that Floyd, I guess to answer that question is I think Floyd has seen that in my wife and myself, and I think that it's something that he aspires to. I don't know that he's there right now. I'm hoping that is something that he will concentrate on more as he matures more, and that's important to us. That's conveyed to him. I think that I'm at an age now, Kerry, and you and I are about the same age now, to where when you're in your 40s and 50s, you don't realize the effect that you've had on people and the witness that you have on people. We get to the age now to where you start seeing some of that, and it's rewarding if you've done it the right way. I can imagine that if you haven't done it the right way, and we all have things that we wish that we hadn't have done, but you see how that can affect other people. And your witness is so important whenever you're around these kind of these younger people, to see them, see that you are living the Christian life, that you're living as close to Christ as you possibly can. And that's one of the things I think that Floyd has seen in my wife and I, that he wants to live that sort of life. I remember Floyd making this statement to me one time when he was living with us. So now he's a teenager, and he said, "Don, I've seen how you and Dixie have all of your kids together, so I'd like to have all of my kids by one woman." So he saw that. That wasn't in his family, but he saw it in our family. So that he sees those things.
He knows. And friend, I want to turn to you for just a moment and talk to you for just a moment. Don's talking about the great boxer Floyd Mayweather, who is worth millions upon millions of dollars. And Don and his wife actually had Floyd live in their home for a couple of years, and Don saw their Christian walk. And my friend, I just want to tell you today that it doesn't matter how successful you are, how rich you are, because we're going to die without those things. And if we don't know Jesus Christ, there's no way that we can get to heaven. There's a passage in the Bible over in 1 John 2:15 through 17 that says, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, it's of the world." And it says that all of these things will pass away. And that just simply means that they're going to go down the drain just like water when you pull the plug in the sink. And the only thing that's going to last throughout eternity is that what you do for Jesus Christ. And my friend, today I want to encourage you, if you do not know Jesus Christ, give Him your life, because all of these temporal, that just means temporary things, money, fame, and fortune, are going to pass away. It doesn't matter if you're as great as Floyd Mayweather, all of that is going to pass away. The only thing that's going to matter throughout eternity is what we do for our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So today I invite you to ask Christ into your life. And Don, you know, we've just got a couple of minutes left in the program. Is there anything I haven't asked you about, you know, that you would like to share with our audience today?
Well, Kerry, in talking about boxing, it was a part of my life that I had a lot of fun with. I felt like I had a lot of success very quickly, more so than what most people do. I think that I did, because I don't know, I probably managed 50, 60 fighters. In like
Gets in your blood, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, yeah. And I always said that when Frankie beat Chavez, that could have been the worst thing that could happen to me, because you always want that again, you know, and it's hard to have it. But as I look back at it now, I feel like that I did have effect on a lot of people's lives, and that part is rewarding. And I hope that they will forgive me for the things that I may have done wrong that they saw too, because that's also a part of it.
Well, none of us are perfect, my friend.
Yeah.
And you know, if you had it to do all over again, what would you do differently in the sport of boxing?
Oh gosh, that's a lot of things, I guess. You know, when you're promoting fighters and these are these kids' careers, this is their chance.
It's their life.
It's their life, and so when you make a mistake with someone's career, you have to take responsibility for that too. And one of the things is I always had loyalty as one of the most important things to me. And sometimes I think maybe I may have been too loyal to different promoters, where if I had have went ahead and moved a fighter maybe when I should have, they would have had more success and maybe made it to the top quicker.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Don Hale, thank you so much for joining us on In Your Corner today.
I've enjoyed it, Kerry. Love talking boxing.
I know you do. And friend, you've heard it today. I mean, Don was at the top of the heap in the sport of boxing, managed 2 world champions, something that I always wanted to do but couldn't, Don. And friend, but none of that matters unless you know Jesus Christ and He knows the Lord is a Savior. I invite you to invite Jesus Christ into your life. And friend, we'll look forward to seeing you again next week, same time, same station, on the next edition of In Your Corner.